Hey Sainers, welcome to episode 4 of the Saints Nation podcast. We are coming off a bit of a shock loss, or not really a shock loss to GWS, but today we'll be going over the game, of course. We'll be going over some injury news coming out of the past week, a quick segment for who's in and who's out. We'll also be going over our votes for the game, a quick trade and draft news recap, so that's going to be a bit spicy.
And a major topic on who should be leading this club as well.
Yeah, who should be leading this club into the future? And
stay tuned in the end because I am going to rip into somebody.
And of course, the fan questions, our most popular segment on the podcast. But
yes.
What do you think of the game, boys?
Well, unfortunately, we were not able to get over the Giants. I was at work, so I didn't really get to watch as much as I would have liked. I did get to catch the last quarter, but I did message you guys at the end of the second quarter saying we need to start well. Turns out we definitely did not start well, as they ballooned the 20-point halftime lead to a big 50-point win. 50-point lead towards the end of the third quarter. And, you know, from that, we were able to bounce back in the last a little bit, kicking 4-0, I believe it was in the end.
Yeah, pretty much.
But, you know, I thought it was a tough game to watch, honestly. I didn't really like it.
Yeah, I agree. It was very disappointing to see how they played in that second quarter, especially. I think the first 15 minutes at first, we had it really on our side, but then it just all went downhill after that, besides a couple junk time goals at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair. For me, I got to catch all of the game, and look, I think definitely the second and third quarter were pretty tough watches. It's something you have to get used to as a Saints supporter, those quarters in games. But, you know, we're 3-2 after our first 5. If I told you that we've gone 3-2 after our first 5, with how bad it was looking, at least with what the media were talking about in the pre-season, I think you'd be pretty wrapped with that. And
I'll take it.
I think
taking it every day of the week, 100%.
We've gone to Adelaide 3 times.
Yep. Going to finally get some games in Melbourne. Yay.
Thankfully.
Back under the dome. We don't
next week against the Bulldogs, so that will be pretty fun. We'll talk about that later on in the podcast. But one man who I think it's pretty important to talk about, the Messiah of our club at the moment, Messiah Wanganeen Millera.
Don't leave, please.
How good was he on the weekend? 24 touches with 3 goals. That is insane.
He's a superstar. Yeah. How do you kick that one at the end? My God.
He was just hungry.
Yeah. Hugo didn't look confident at all with the ball, and he was just like, Naz, and finally found him, faked one, and then almost kicked it. It would have been so nice to see that go through. But, I mean, he had, 7 score involvements for the game. 4 of them were from scoring shots. So he finally got up the ground, and I've always said that whenever we're 50 metres out, we needed Shill in the team to be able to get those long bombs.
Yeah.
Because every team does it against us. And then Naz does it 3 times in the game. Like, who would have thought?
He looked really well. Really good.
He looks really well, did he?
Looked really well.
But we had some really good young players, I thought. You got, obviously, Naz. He had a really high-rated game, 28 champion data rankings.
0.0, which was the highest of the round.
And also the second highest of the Saints player over the last 5 years.
Yeah, something crazy.
Only behind Tim Membry's performance against West Coast last year.
Congrats, Tim.
Yes, congrats, Tim. Had Naz kicked that goal, he would have been above Tim. But you've also got the likes of Garcia and Windhager in the absence of McRae getting tagged. Obviously, Garcia stepped up, and I thought he was really good, probably pushing to get the Rising Star nod this week, I think.
I hope so.
We'll see. Every week is another player, we hope so.
Yes.
That never happens.
Usually it comes out by now, but it hasn't come out just yet.
It'll come out tonight eventually. But you had Stocker always flying the flag, which we love to see. And obviously had that great play where he had the smother, lays a huge tackle on Taylor, and then actually delivers the ball perfectly inside 50. Sharman, again, looked good. My prediction for that, spot on. Absolutely towed Taylor up, just unfortunately couldn't kick accurate. But you guys want to talk about one man that I completely disagree with about your opinion.
I don't understand how. I reckon he played really well.
Yeah, Ryan Burns, I thought he looked great. I get like the defensive side of his game is not there, but he's a halfback winger, and you can't expect him to lock up Toby Green.
Why was he even on Toby
But
Green?
that's the thing. Why was he on Toby Green?
What's Jimmy Webster doing?
But that's
Correct.
more of a Ross Lyon decision than
Yeah, but at the same
a Ryan
time,
Burns issue.
after Green kicks the first one, surely you think as a player, okay, I probably got to be more defensive on him. Surely, right? Whether you can do it or not is a separate thing. But you got to be able to stay on a man. Like, I think it's pretty poor both on the coach and on Burns. I think obviously he had a not good week last week. I think he struggled pretty much with the pressure. And, you know, his decision-making can be good at times, but it's also shown that it does lack.
Yeah, and look, like, you're looking at it as the defensive aspect of his game on Toby Green is the big negative. Overall, the defensive side of the game on the weekend was
shocking.
We
Yeah,
let,
it was
105 points at three-quarter time.
30 scoring shots.
Yeah, it's pretty poor.
Terrible. You can't expect to win a game like that.
No.
Like, I know we kept them goalless in the final quarter, but defensively as a team, that's a game we're going to be reviewing a lot.
Yep.
He probably should have had two, and he missed a couple of easy ones too.
Yeah.
At last.
Kicked the first goal of the game as well.
Mm-hmm. Off a 50-metre penalty.
Only
pure talent.
Yeah.
Pure talent.
Only one man in that defence can probably hold his head up high for me, and that's
he does it every
Callum
week.
Wilkie. Just does it every week. We were discussing it today, how you think Harris Andrews is better than Callum Wilkie, but I don't see it, because Callum Wilkie just never has a bad game.
They're also different key defenders.
Maybe it's bags kicked on him.
They are. But Harris Andrews, I just remember vividly when Max King tore him a new one.
That was a good game.
2021, late in the year, and, you know,
hasn't played him
captain,
since, probably.
But
Don't disrespect King. He's trying.
I'd say Taylor. Taylor's the only one for me I'd take over Wilkie at the moment. He's definitely all Australian form, whether that's a fullback like he was in 2023 or a back pocket.
Do we have the two best halfbacks in the comp? Like, not even just duo, just two best.
Where'd that come from?
I'm talking about backman now. I'm just talking about backman.
Yeah, like Zorko's up there.
Zorko and Wilmot are good.
Holmes
Houston and
good.
Dacos kind of do it.
Like,
Again,
not even like a duo, just the
Holmes
two
is all
best.
Yeah, there's definitely an argument for it, because Sinclair is always up there as the best halfback, and then Naz has just exploded this year.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. West Coast, no. Freo, not really. Clark and Young.
So Whitfield,
Young's
if anything.
weird.
Just trying to think the two best from every team. Adelaide, it's not Kane Farrell and Josh Sin. Most definitely not.
Or the future Saint, Miles Bergman.
I think we definitely have the best two.
I think you can make that argument.
Definitely the best duo. I think if you look at every other club, Nasai is probably better than their halfback, and we'd take Sinclair over Naz on form.
Yeah.
So,
Good point. Good point.
Maybe that's something. Comment below, actually. Do you think that St Kilda have the number 1 and the number 2 halfback in the competition right now?
Like, if an all-Australian team was announced right now, would we have both halfback flanks?
Surely.
I reckon we'd have 3 defenders in the All-Australian team right now.
You'd take that, even if we're getting smashed.
Caminiti too.
That too.
Maybe. Leads the AFL in marks, and
Does he still?
yeah.
That's crazy.
Did a quiet game of the week.
Yeah, after getting like 2 marks against Adelaide in round 1 as well.
Yeah, as a forward.
Really funny.
I think it was Fox Footy. That's how much people don't watch our games. They said Mitch Owens and Anthony Caminiti held scoreless. And just saying about our forward line, and then mentioned Caminiti not kicking the goal as he plays fullback.
Christ,
Mate,
that's
Caminiti
poor.
He
does
does
not
too.
play there. And
Darcy 41 as a key forward is crazy.
you know, talking about, you know, the likes of Wilkie and Naz as all Australians, this man probably not an all Australian just yet, but a big culture icon at the club. Max Hall, I thought he looked great against the Giants, one of our fan favourites.
Again, he was just such a good lead-up option to have.
Yeah, the way he's working around the stoppages as a really smart player, I think, is something really promising.
17 and a goal.
And I can't wait to see him and Liam Henry in the same team.
Oh, it's
assuming Henry comes back in with him.
Be wonderful.
I think the connection they provide going forward is exactly what we need.
Yeah.
And so he looks to probably solidify himself over Dan Butler already, which I'm so pleased about.
He can just
not a Butler fan.
Not a
Nope.
Butler fan.
Oh.
Are you
Sorry.
fan of anyone on the stage?
Hey, I'm Super Cooper's biggest fan, mate.
Yeah, fair enough.
I won't say that Hall's Mr. Reliable just yet, and because he's only played the 5 games, but he's just a bit of a plug and play player. He'll play wherever you want. You want him to go to a bit of a centre bounce, he could do that. You want him to play some more forward, he can do it.
I mean, averaging 17 and a goal over your first 5 games is pretty impressive stuff.
Yeah, he is
He's playing
just
really
a
well.
typical Ross Lyon player, I
Mhm.
think.
Yep.
And probably one of the last positives we had out of this game was just the fact that we kept him goalless
In the last quarter.
in the last quarter.
Yeah.
Is that a positive?
Well,
I'd say so. We kept them positive. Like, keeping a team goalless is...
Yeah.
It's not too bad. I mean, when they've got the best forward in the league
They've
and
got
the
the
best small
Coleman
forward in the
medal.
league.
That's a positive. He's shutting in only 2 goals
Yeah.
when he's averaging 6.5.
Yeah,
is
Wilkie did
positive.
very well. But, good stuff, bad stuff.
Here we
All
go.
gets muddled together.
Yep.
Do we have a Jack Steele problem?
This
Because
is-
obviously it's his return game, and I understand that he probably wasn't fully fit, and we did kind of rush him back a little bit. But at the same time, if you're able to play, you should be healthy enough to be fit and firing.
Yeah.
And he didn't look like he was fit and firing.
No.
He didn't even look like a leader at all that game.
No.
And this is a conversation that people have been having since round 1 is, do we have a Steele issue? And
Mhm.
my response then was that no, because McRae's coming to this team, a new midfielder. Obviously, McRae's going to take some of the ball that Steele was getting, but you look at a game like what we had against GWS where McRae was just taking out of it completely. Had 15 in the end, I believe.
I think he had maybe 17.
17.
He got tagged out the game by
Yeah,
Bedford.
he got completely tagged out of the
Mhm.
game.
We had-
And
He had a 50 gamer and a 15 gamer. Outperforming the midfield
Mhm.
is
Yeah.
horrible.
yeah,
Yep.
it's not looking good. And obviously, Steele is a player we all love. He's our captain, but I mean, a lot of people were calling for Wilkie to step up and be captain this year.
Me included.
Was something, I thought would have happened this year. And
Mhm.
I feel like next year will be the year.
Yeah.
If not co-captains, which is I reckon basically what it is now anyway.
yeah,
Behind
and
the doors.
I thought Wilkie looked great as captain over the past 2 weeks where he had to step into that role. And it is just a bit of a conversation now. Do we have a Jack Steele problem? Do we have a leadership problem? Obviously, it's not something you want to do in dropping your
No.
captain, but
I think
He's not.
obviously we're not going to drop him. I don't think that's out of because he is a very talented player. But the problem is we've seen it over the last 3 years. Like his most recent good year was 2022. I'd argue, like where he was actually back towards that level. He hasn't found the consistency in his game and in his body at all, and it's difficult because we saw in 2020 and 2021 how good of a player he can be. He was top 4 in the Coleman in 2020. Like I don't think people understand how
Brownlow
insane
not
that
like
is.
Coleman.
Yeah. Yes, I had a oopsie. Anyway, I just think that if you are the captain of the club, you should be leading from the front
yeah.
every time. And when you've got Garcia, you've got Windy, and you've got McRae arguably still outperforming him. I think it's not a great look, and he's never been the most vocal player on field. From what I've heard as well, he very much is a vocal player off the field, and that's fine. But even if you just have them as co-captains, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and that's something I was going to talk about a little bit. Like, obviously, we're not in the inner sanctum. We're not at the club every day. We don't get to see these players, what they're like off field a lot. But Steele, to me, is a very lead by action type of captain, while Wilkie is a lot more vocal, and I think that's where the co-captaincy works.
Mm-hmm.
And, you look at Brisbane last year, they had co-captains, and I feel like it was sort of the same dynamic with Neil and Andrews, where Neil was a bit more of a lead by how he's playing, and Andrews was a lot more vocal.
Yeah.
And it worked for them. They won a premiership. So I think that's something we can definitely look at, whether that is during our mid-season bye and whether we feel like Wilkie has earned the respect to become the captain of this club, or
I feel like he has.
whether that's something we look at the end of the season.
Well, it also just allows Steele to go back and focus on his game and get back to his best. Like he was a captain he was co-captain 2021,
co-captain 2021, so
and then full captain 2022.
Yeah.
When he became full captain, that's sort of when we've seen the decline.
you look at his best football, and it happens a lot. You see players get to focus on their football instead of being a captain, and it works out great for him. But another thing that was included in the bad stuff category was our goal efficiency. So we had 62 entries inside 50 and 12 goals in total. So that is 19% efficiency rate. And just to put that into perspective, because on its own it's a nothing stat to most people. So a lot of people talk about Melbourne's inside 50s, how they just bomb it in and there's nothing going on the score sheet. So that is Melbourne Demons level bad efficiency. Melbourne on the weekend had 16% goal efficiency.
We had 11 more inside 50s to a team that was up by 50 against us.
Yeah.
That's bad.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy that we were able to get that ball movement, but once again, A, we don't have the forwards to be able to compete in the air with them, so the ball was just coming out. And B, the small forwards just weren't there, which is probably why Collard got subbed out. Your man, not very happy about it.
Disrespect.
But he just wasn't able to provide that pressure, and they were able to pretty easily walk it out. Like Lucky Ash, he had 20 touches in the first half.
Yep.
And so that was probably emblematic of the problem.
The amount of times it felt like they just had an extra player on the ground.
I was wondering where our numbers were half the time.
Yeah.
Like when they just kept getting out of the back pocket. It was just and then they kicked to somebody on the lead.
Is that a system issue or is that just the size of the ground?
It's a bit of everything.
A bit of both.
If we had the forward talent to be able to compete in the air, then obviously they're not going to be able to get their rebound. If we had the small forwards who weren't so young and probably knew a bit more about the game, then probably wouldn't happen. If the ground wasn't so small and so thin as a ground as well, probably wouldn't happen. So it's just a bit of a mix of everything.
And to go along with our terrible efficiency inside 50, we had 6 tackles inside 50. So that's half of what we average for the year. I believe GWS almost doubled that as well. And that is poor, especially that's something you want to see from small forwards mainly. It just shows you everyone was a bit frustrated.
If we weren't kicking to ourselves, or like Sharman on the lead or Wood on the lead, it was just straight to Sam Taylor half the time. You couldn't even get it down for them to actually tackle somebody.
Yeah. And I suppose that is, again, our age and experience, because they are a super talented team and they've been there again and again.
Everyone thinks they're going to be up and in that grand final prelim range come September. We've got to remember that.
If they don't make the grand final, I think that could be a failure of a year for them.
Very arguably.
Very well, true be.
They can't just choke in the finals again.
Yeah.
No.
That team on paper is probably the best.
One of the most talented lists I've ever seen.
Exactly, yeah.
You got to remember, like, we're one of the youngest teams in the comp right now. We're 4th on age, and we would have been one of the youngest teams on the weekend with what we fielded. And I feel like following that performance that there's a lot of pressure come next Thursday and Friday on who we select and what youngsters we go with. So Keel is on the outer at the moment, Henry's on the outer, and it's something we'll talk about a little bit more when we do our actual ins and outs. But any players we think could be dropped following this performance?
Go on. I know you want to.
Well, I mean, I could go on and on and on and on and on and on and on about who I would want to see dropped. But, like, based off of the injuries we saw to be able to drop someone, King still has not been able to get fit.
No, so
he came down with a calf injury after the knee complaint.
Yep.
That's, 3 or 4 more weeks? Or is it 6 weeks?
So the club's reporting 3 weeks,
Yeah.
and Tom Morris has come out. So Tom Morris isn't the most reliable source for Saints information. I'll just get that out straight away, but he's saying 4 to 6 weeks, and I think that's definitely more realistic than what the club's saying.
Especially with King, he's not.
Straight away. We don't want to take a risk on him. I think 6 weeks. So give it till round 10.
Yeah.
Potentially we see him against Carlton in round 9, but
that'd be good.
That'd be
the best game for him to return against.
Yeah, I don't think he'll get up for that.
I know we're going to the future, but that game is one of the most important games of this year.
Yes,
easily. Just a showcase for TDK. It's like it's a tryout.
At the G, we only play at the G twice this year,
and the other one's against Richmond.
And I feel like we're a very good team at the G, but that's something we can talk about in episode, what would it be, 8 when we get to it. But
after we've won the last 4 in a row.
Yeah, I hope so. But so Rowan Marshall also pulled up sore. Thankfully, that was, well, not thankfully, but that was the only injury that we saw against the Giants, and he played out the game, so I don't know if there's anything too serious, but had a bit of an issue in the pre-season, and obviously fitness was a concern in round 1 as well, so could we take a precautionary approach there?
I don't think you can against Stuart Versing.
Don't think we can with how good Marshall is and how much he means to our system. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, the players who could return against the Bulldogs are Liam Henry, O'Connell and Boxall. Those are the three I'd have in and around that
Yep.
selection table. But overall, who's in and who's out for you guys for round 6?
Do you want to start, Ben?
Well, I have gone with a few changes, but I do want to make sure that we do go through our centre of the week. I think it's been a bit muddled on the slides, and we'll continue to talk about the game first. Obviously, Naz was voted as the centre of the week. I don't think there was any doubt in that. But who we had, I think, is super important because it tells us how we analyse the game.
Yeah.
And I think you can start with that, Will. Get this
Yeah.
done before we obviously go on to the game.
So my voting, my 3-2-1 for this week, I had Cooper Sharman, 1 vote, kicked his 3 goals,
Mhm.
thought could have easily kicked well more than that. Few missed opportunities, but still played a great game.
Mm-hmm.
2 votes for me went to Windhager. I thought he stepped up when really no one else did in that midfield. And 3 votes, obviously, to Naz.
Yep, fair. And you, Cooper?
Well, my 1 vote to our little winger, Ryan Burns. I think he played a really good game, even though Ben disagrees very
Very much
on
so.
that. Yep.
Yes.
2 is Windy, as what Will just said. I think his midfield presence with
Mhm.
even McRae getting tagged and still being nowhere near it is one that stood up
Yep.
for it. And then 3 votes, like everybody else has, is the best halfback in the comp. Nas.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. I had Hugo Garcia getting a vote. I think he's put himself right in the Rising Star nomination category. I think the way he stood up was really impressive. You know, they've got a huge midfield. You look at the likes of Green and Callahan and all those, they're really big-bodied players. And I think Hugo's obviously not that, but the way he fought in there I thought was really, really impressive.
Mm-hmm.
2 votes, Cooper Sharman. I thought the way he competed with Taylor for the most part was pretty impressive, so I really liked that. And then 3 votes, obviously, to Naz. He was just absolutely superb, to be honest. Sign the bloke, please. I don't know what I'd do. I don't know what I'd do with myself if we didn't sign him.
I've got some bad news for everybody.
Oh,
This is
no.
live
Oh, no.
just now from Essendon. Archie Roberts was
Oh,
Rising Star
God.
nomination.
No.
Producer Jasper
No.
for today, he's pretty happy about that one.
No,
but
no.
no Hugo Garcia Rising Star this week. Breaking news, but this is where the leaderboard sits after
Yeah.
That sums
2
up
weeks.
it well too, I think.
Yeah.
It's not too bad.
Still not even
So-
1 vote. Like, that's bad for a
So
game.
love
McRae's
that.
only got the 1 vote because we've only done it for 2 weeks now.
Yeah,
but
we shall go back and we'll update it next week
We
with all
should.
the other games.
He would be 7-ish because you probably get the 3 for the
yeah,
first 2.
around
Yeah.
7.
Yeah.
So
Just pretend McRae's 7 at the moment. And then,
looks all right.
Yeah, Higgins being up there is nice to see. Obviously, the 2 halfbacks. Sharman, love being up there, and Maxie Hall too. He's been very good.
Yeah, I think we've definitely got the 2 front runners, or what will turn into the 3 with McRae.
Mhm.
But I think that also shows the depth of our team a little bit. It's not always
Yeah.
the same names who
Yeah.
are bobbing up and doing it for
I
us.
feel like we've very much disrespected Wilkie.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
Going off our
as a defender, it's hard to get
Yeah.
the vote.
Not
yeah,
even-
when we're giving 110 points for sure.
Like, we got Lance Gollard getting the vote. That's just me being biased.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
We know you
But,
love Lancey.
I
Give me
think
a- give me a
now we can get into our who's in and who's out, and I think that was a good audible by Bem.
Smart.
But
Yes, we'll make sure it doesn't happen next week.
but for me, so I've got Liam Henry coming into this team. I've got Liam O'Connell also coming
Mhm.
back into this team.
The
I think
Liams.
a bit like Stocker, he's sort of
Yeah.
just that heart and soul player. And I've
Yeah.
got Jones and Hasty coming out to make room for them. But I've
Mhm.
also just got a bit of a Keeler watch. It wouldn't surprise me if we brought Keeler back in for this game. I thought our
Mhm.
tall or lack of tolls in the forward line showed a bit against the Giants. But Bem,
Yeah.
who do you have coming in?
I've gone Izzy Keeler coming back in. I think we mentioned Marshall was a bit sore, and then
Yep.
providing him a bit of extra ruck help will always do him good. Allows Wood to also not necessarily be that third tall. He was all right on the weekend, but I just don't want him in that position. So he comes in for Lance Collard. Liam Henry comes in. I'm sorry, he got subbed out. He was very quiet on the weekend.
He's okay. He'll play next week.
We'll
He'll kick 6.
kick 6 again. Maybe in the 2s he might. Who knows?
Come on. Wait, where does Sandy Zebs play?
I've got Liam Henry in for Zachy Jones. I think, again, he as Cooper said, I don't think it was in the podcast, but he cannot play in Adelaide. Like, seriously, his last 3 games, 3 of his last 4 games in Adelaide have been absolutely abysmal. Like that Adelaide game last year where he get sent death threats. The Adelaide game this year, he was really poor. And then the Port game last week, he was all right. But again, this week, he was not good.
I don't think he was that good last week.
And I think... Huh?
I don't think he was that good last week.
Yeah.
No, he wasn't. That's why I said it was all right.
That round 2 games kept him in for a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And I've got, obviously, Henry. I think, as I mentioned, that forward connection's needed. Like, in that second and third quarter when we're not really getting the... Like, we're getting the ball in. We're just not, obviously, doing it efficiently. He's one that can hit up targets. We've seen that multiple times in his short stint so far. So I think he's important. And then I'm also bringing in O'Connell. I think when you're talking about flying the flag with Stocker, he showed that he's doing that as a really young player. And I think that's important to have in your team. It could also very well be someone like Webster coming out. I think adding a little bit of extra height against the Bulldogs team that has Sam Darcy in there could very well be needed. And I thought Webster was also very poor on the weekend. He's been great this year, but he had a really poor week this week.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, I've gone, obviously, like everybody else, Liam Henry in. I think he should be an automatic in for forward presence.
Yep.
Now, bear with me. I've gone pretty tall. I've gone Boyd in, and I've gone Keeler in.
Ooh. I want to question you on that afterwards.
I completely agree.
I feel like Marshall's just can't do a number 1 ruck with the injuries he's got. So bring in Boyd. I think the forward presence alone, it was like Keeler was without Keeler, without any tall, was just shocking last week. So I think bring Keeler back in, and then also Boyd or Marshall can rotate back a little bit to just give an intercepting mark with those tall forwards Dogs have. And then Zach Jones obviously dropped. Mm-hmm. Now bear with me again. Little Tobes. I know he's played 2 games.
I was on the verge of potentially him being out.
Jeez, 3 weeks.
3 weeks, yeah.
For the
just a quick one.
For what was it?
So, Paddy Voss, the Fremantle forward, got 3 weeks for a strike on...
Are you kidding?
Oh, for the one of Boston.
Yeah.
Yes. You can tune into that on Zero Access Footy tomorrow. I'm going to go bang.
Hey, what's your thoughts on
I'm going to go bang.
Do you agree?
Yes, I do.
You agree with 3 weeks?
Quick thoughts, I agree.
All right.
Quick thoughts, I agree.
Yeah, I should go back.
Yeah, but back to
I know he's 2 games in. I just don't feel like he's... Or 3 games in, sorry.
Yeah.
I feel like he showed something the last 2 weeks. I think a couple more games in the Zeps will get him good.
Yeah, 100%. It's just confidence. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like we saw with Philippou last year, it only does good for him if he's the right type of player.
Yeah.
And it'll be good to see if he is.
And then obviously, not obviously, but Hasty, probably unlucky. I think he played alright as a sub, but sub's normally the first one to go. So
yeah,
he'd be out
fine.
too. Now, quiz me, go on.
Quiz
on the tolls.
I just want to know why you've gone with 3 tolls. When 2 tolls, especially with Boyd in the team, hasn't worked at all this year.
Oh, I like Boyd. I feel like
I didn't.
2 ruckmen against, because Darcy will go hit out in a ruck. He's a massive. So what if we have? Who's going to hit out in a ruck if we don't have Keeler or Boyd? Say Keeler doesn't play either.
Okay, you got Owens.
Owens against
physical against Darcy.
Owens against he's not winning that hit out.
Okay, so you will have a forward line of what? Marshall, Keeler, Sharman, Wood, and Owens. Is that correct?
No. Wood can go back to the wing.
Okay, so then Wood's on the wing. You still got a really tall and slow forward line.
I don't hate that because you're dropping Tobes.
Because you've got the one of the best small forwards in the comp right now. So he's there. Max Hall's there. Lance Collard will still be there. I know it's tall and slow, but I think Keeler is pretty fast for a kid. He's not too bad.
Yeah. He's athletic.
I understand Boyd's slow, but I feel like it will work if we try.
The only way I could see it working is we tried this in the second half, mainly the fourth quarter, is we saw both Naz and Owens playing midfield. At that first centre bounce, it was Owens, Naz, and I think it was McRae who was still holding the tag. Yeah. Those were our 3 midfielders.
Yeah.
And so the only way I can see that working is if Owens decides to play more midfield.
If Boyd's not in, I feel like Ari should come in instead.
Yeah.
He could just... I know his defence is amazing at the moment, but just a tall option that we can...
Play him... Doesn't have to be as forward.
Just get in front of Darcy.
Get him as a forward half.
Don't let him have a lead option. Just get in front of him. He's tall enough to contest the mark at least. Because he'll break us apart if we don't.
I just want to touch on something quickly. So we've all had Liam Henry come back into the team.
Yep.
And this is not something I've seen anyone else talk about. So, what Liam Henry means to our ball movement, especially inside 50, and how that benefits Max King. So, when Liam Henry plays in the same side as Max King, 2 goals, 3 goals, 2 goals, 0 goals, 3 goals, 2 goals, 2 goals, 3 goals. I think that's something we all like to see from Max. So
who's the 0 against?
Fremantle. So he's got Alex Pearce playing on.
He also could have very easily been injured in that game, if I'm not mistaken.
That was a shit game to watch.
I vaguely remember that game.
Paddy Dow kicked
We were so slow in that game.
Boundary. But I think that is not something I have seen anyone talk about. That's something I will post about it when they're both in the same team again. But yeah, King and...
He's also a player that's played, 50, 60 games?
Yeah.
And he's
both of them
22, 23?
Yeah, Henry's
not
just played over 50, so...
Yeah. Why wouldn't you get games into him? He's got to be a star. We bring him over for a reason.
Exactly.
Straight in.
Yeah, I was talking about that earlier. Like the forward connection he brings, it shows with those stats. So that's a really good point. But I think we've talked about King and Henry now, who's someone we brought in. Who could be the new players we are bringing in? Because you have some news on some potential stars.
A bit of a news segment. This is something I'm going to try and do. Obviously, I'll update what we get every week, but a bit of a monthly recap of our trade and draft news. So I'll start off with Tom de Koning. So Jay Clark reported on the weekend after the Carlton game as well, where they won, that de Koning was putting contract talks on hold, which is a great sign for our prospects that bring in the ruckman. And Tom Morris backed up this report, adding that it's a worrying sign for Carlton fans, especially after LDU has signed on with North Melbourne during the week. So if he can, why can't TDK?
Yep.
Legally, so Ben Cotton of Fox Sports wrote during the week that St Kilda is the favourite to land legally, and the deal could be something along the lines of $900,000 a year.
Jesus.
Something we've heard, which it is a lot of money. I can admit that, $900,000 for a year.
Yes, he could also be an absolute gun. Like he would
yeah.
fit in every other team's backline aside from GWS.
Look at our team on the weekend. He plays.
Yes,
straight away.
He could. Does he get any time to swing forward?
Is it
how
the
tall
detriment?
is he?
He's 194, 195, I'd say.
Okay,
he's at the detriment of having Jack Buckley and Sam Taylor.
Yeah,
and 194.
194. Okay, so it's similar height to Wilkie.
But
I'd probably be looking at someone a bit taller, maybe.
But his leap.
You look at that game against Geelong where he took 8 intercept marks.
Yeah,
that's really broke him out.
There's a ruddy vertical with a leap of 107 centimeters.
That's insane.
Yeah,
that is what. That can't be real.
I wasn't as confident in Alir probably about even 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
I was probably just a bit of a 50-50. I think he's definitely gone, but to us or Brisbane are the main contenders.
I've
but
heard Brisbane.
The fact that we've continually heard this now since October last year just continues to prove to me that we've obviously got a very huge link to him and that we're pretty set on bringing him in. James Warple is the new name.
Okay.
So Tom Morris last Monday reported that St Kilda and Melbourne are interested in the Hawthorn on bowler, and Warple is seen as up for grabs as the Hawks push for their premiership this year, and for years to come he could be one of those mids who, well, he's not asking for a heap of money, like the money's just a bit too much, and they just let him go, bring in a priority pick and draft someone in the draft.
He'll eventually be on the outer too, I reckon.
You think
Cam McKenzie's getting better by the game.
Look at that midfield.
And Will Day come back.
Cam McKenzie, John Newcomb,
Husway in the
VFL.
Husway is killing it in the VFL. Connor Nash. There's a few there.
The only concern I have is if we bring him in, don't do it on a lot of money. Obviously, he'd want to leave for opportunity over money, but it's also the fact that we've still got Patrick Saeed, we've still got Hugh Boxall, we've still got a lot of players who are young and developing. That if we bring him in, you don't want to cap their ceilings by not allowing that opportunity.
Yeah, and I definitely understand that argument, but he's 26, so you look at our group of 24 and unders, so I feel like he fits in. Like King's 24, turning 25, Henry's the same. So he does fit that age range that we've really sort of grown with as a club. And for money-wise, he's obviously we're going to pay him a lot, but again, going to be heavily front-ended.
Yeah.
On a deal, I'd say we'd probably be offering him close to $900,000. Same with Alir.
I don't want him.
which
Not on that.
Yeah,
is a lot of money.
I wouldn't do it on that. And
No offense, James, but no.
he's how quick is he? Like,
Yeah, he's just a bit of
looked good in that
the.
last quarter.
he's
yesterday.
the prototype we'd go after. That's the problem. I don't want to go after. I want speed.
He doesn't.
We need speed.
From what I've
That's
seen
the
from
thing.
Hawks supporters, he's just a bit of a bomber inside 50 as well.
Yeah,
so
he's
Yeah,
kicking
again.
doesn't.
the best.
I
Mhm.
look. I love that we've gone after him. I think
23 and a goal yesterday.
Yeah.
every
I think a lot of
player
that
would
was
take him. We don't have to
quarter.
give anything up for him
No.
at the end of the day. It's free. So
True.
look at Dylan Shield. We had so much interest in Dylan Shield.
Mm.
I'd prefer Warple over
Yeah,
Dylan
definitely.
Shield.
Yeah,
Definitely.
agreed.
Who else have we got?
So just a quick one to add on Miles Bergman.
Mhm.
I think definitely favourites to land Bergman in the upcoming trade period. Nothing new to report just yet, but it is worth noting he did go down with a knee injury in
Okay.
Port's win over the Hawks. So
Yeah.
don't know the exact severity of that, but I think
Hopefully he's
it's.
fit for round one next year.
I think that's definitely the reason. Just
Like
just something worth reporting, because if it is an ACL,
That's a good one. That's a good one. I
it
like
is an
that.
ACL. It could be 12 months, so we might
Yeah.
not see him until round 6. LDU, just quickly out of the way, obviously signed on at North Melbourne.
Mm-hmm.
I'm off
So he's off the table. I've had him off my sort of big board for a while now
Okay.
for St Kilda.
Yeah.
I didn't want him anyway. Doesn't matter.
Nasai Wangdini Miller. So to me, the most likely scenario at the moment is that he signs on.
Mm-hmm.
When that comes, most likely later in the year. So to everyone who comments, let's not focus on TDK, let's go after Naz. We're trying, but let's just wait until the end of the year for that one.
Don't leave Nas.
If you look at him, we might have offered him 1.5 before that game against GWS. He's definitely driven up his price to about
He's a top
1.6.
the league
No,
halfback in the league.
He's $1,500,001.
He's-
That's
so
all
he
we
drives
got
up his price each week. So it's a bit like Windhager, how Windhager hasn't signed on yet. I wouldn't be too worried about Naz
No.
leaving.
I don't think Wendy's going
Hey,
anywhere.
Just
we
yet,
gave
no,
him the number
Naz
2. Why would he leave?
Nah,
Yeah.
Wendy's not. Again, it's just a move to drive up their price.
Mitch.
The managers are pretty smart these days, and the SA clubs are obviously still pursuing him hard, but I don't
Yep.
think
Go
he
away.
met with any of them.
I know he didn't meet with Adelaide.
Definitely didn't meet with Adelaide.
Port didn't say anything about
No.
it. but-
Port, he didn't look too happy against Port.
Yeah. Why would you want
He
to
was
do that?
probably pointing to giving it to them as well. So
Yep.
Jace
good
Burger has
signs.
your number. You're thinking that.
So just another one to report on. So Stephen Silvani and Graham Allen's trip to Ireland.
Mhm.
So this is something the club has done for the past 2 years. So
I
this
love
is
this.
our
This is so
third time doing it, and I think it's something, and I think it's a strategy that has worked for us a lot more than it has for what comes to mind to me is Carlton. Carlton did this when we did it, when we brought in Liam O'Connell, and those players are yet to really show any signs. But we brought in Liam O'Connell, I think definitely a fan favourite
Mhm.
player, and brought in Eamon Armstrong, who haven't seen a glimpse of yet. He will travel to Australia following the conclusion of his schooling. I'm pretty sure
schooling now.
it's around August. He's 18.
yeah, remember they do it differently. Their summer is July,
Yeah.
August,
Yeah,
so
so-
that's when they finish.
If you ever catch some spare time, especially to the viewers, just look up Eamon Armstrong on YouTube, and I think you'll like what you see with his highlights.
Round ball.
And then one final thing: the 2 top 10 picks.
Yeah, well, I'll add another thing
Oh,
to
one
this
more?
that the AFL released.
Oh,
But
yeah.
so Travalia and Tyru. So from what I understand, the 2 top 10 picks from last year's draft are currently in the process of signing extensions, which will keep them at the club for a further period of time,
Mhm.
adding to their original rookie lease contracts of 3 years. So already signed up until 2028, I believe, or 2027, but these contract extensions will extend them further, and it's something we did last year with Lance Collard, extending him from 2026 to 2027. So
Mhm.
it
Lucky
could just
Lance.
be a 1 or 2 year deal for these players, but I think it's definitely showing them that we are backing them and that
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
are
Shows faith in them. They give
backing us in.
give us good football back.
And then-
Works out.
Just a quick one. So the AFL released their 108 total list of free agents, letting us know who's restricted and who isn't. So we don't have any restricted free agents this year. Just the
Okay.
3 unrestricted in Liam Stocker, Jimmy Webster, and Zane Cordy. And we can probably talk about this a little bit. So out of those 3, who do you think will stay at the club, Ben?
Cordy's gone. Webster's 50-50. And who was the other one? Stocker? I think
Yeah.
Stocker stays.
Yeah.
What about you, Cooper?
Yeah, I can't agree more there. I think Cordy's hasn't done enough already.
Yeah.
Unless he somehow takes the piss. I don't know how, but he won't. But
Yeah.
I think Webster gets another year. I think Stocker will just be on 1 year deals the rest of his career, unfortunately. But I think he will still be around for another 3 years at least.
Stocker is one I'd just love to see sign a contract now, whether that's 2 years, 3 years. I hate the 1 year deals we keep handing out to these guys like Ryan Burns, Stocker, and Webster as well. We do it to him.
Yeah. What I'm confused about is how many players did we offer 1 year contracts to that aren't then free agents this year? How does that work?
Yeah, like Keeler and
So it
Heath.
eventuates to like how many years you've had in the system. So I think you have to be around 24 or 25 until you actually hit free agency.
Okay.
And then if you were delisted by another club, so like Stocker, for example, where he
Membry
was
as well. Yeah.
delisted, so yeah, like Membry as well last year, where they've been delisted by a club already and we've picked them up, then they're still a free agent. So the age is a factor with this. So so Keeler, who's out of contract, isn't a free agent. So if he looked to move, we'd either delist him and he'd sign on as a delisted free agent, or
they'd have to trade.
They'd have to. I don't think it's trade. I think. Yes, trade, but also they just look to draft him in the rookie draft or in the AFL draft as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I'll just quickly touch on. So I think Zane Cordy is one who we wait and see on. So definitely won't be getting a contract extension at this point. 21.
Yuck. That's legally his number next year.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, if we're getting legally, well, there's no need to get Cordy.
So it's just one of those things. I think it's wait and see on. If we don't land a Lear, if Dougal Howard retires or something dumb like that, and we don't have much key defender depth, I think we could definitely bring in Cordy. I think Webster, definitely a 1 year deal if he chooses not to retire. I think something interesting that hasn't been reported on much. So Jimmy Webster earned his life membership at the BNF last year, and he congratulations to him, but he actually deferred it to this year. So I wonder if that means something, if that means he's looking at this year as his final year at the club. I think he's still a very serviceable player.
Yeah. I feel like he's still best 22 and at least this year.
Stocker, give him 10 years, I don't care. But
Stock never leave.
If he keeps doing those tackles, you can continue to give him.
But I think that's really it for this trade and draft segment.
I love it.
Love it. Really good.
Thank you. But time to move on to the fans' favourite segment, the fan questions. We got 5 this week. So question 1, can we come back from this loss / what positives can we take away?
Hugo, that's my positive.
Yeah,
that's fair. What about you, Cooper?
Yeah, great. I think the young guns all played really well this weekend. I think, especially Nas, too.
100%.
Yeah, that's the positive.
So, Hugo, Nas, and...
for me, I've got like a few. I've written them down, but obviously, of course, we can come back from this loss. I think that's a bit of a weird thing to say. In the end, it was a 28-point loss.
One of the best teams in the league.
Yeah, to one of the best teams.
We also came back against Adelaide, and that was worse loss than this. So,
And, we still have many best 23 players, to me, that are on the cusp of returning or will return soon. So, Hunter Clark is one who I'm excited to see come back into this team. King, Butler, Howard, Henry, and Filippo.
Can't wait for the poo.
That is 6 players who, they were all fully fit today, they're probably playing.
Yeah.
And on to question 2. Do we bring back Harry Boyd? What do you think of this, Cooper?
As you saw before, and everybody disagreed with me, I feel like he should. He's played well enough in the twos the last couple of weeks. And he was nearly in this week, so I think he should be back in.
I just think that he's too slow. Like, he's a big boy, but like at the same time, he's not able to get around the ground efficiently.
Yeah.
And we're seeing now a lot of the best ruckmen can do that, and Marshall does that really well. I don't think we've got the good balance in the team with him and Marshall. Whereas with Keeler, he's able to get around the ground a lot better, even though it doesn't provide as much physical support in the air up forward. He's much better around the ground.
Yeah, and look, like sometimes there's just players who are really good at VFL level, and it happens a lot with rucks, and it doesn't quite translate to AFL level. I think if Marshall was to somehow miss this week against the Dogs with that little injury Niggley had against the Giants, then Boyd is definitely an option. But to me, Keeler and Marshall are just such a better duo at AFL level.
Mhm.
And on to question 3 now. Will we ever be forced to play at Norwood's Rectangle Oval? So, have a bit of news on this one. So, John Ralph reported on Sunday night that St Kilda are actually one of the few teams who want to play their gather-round game next year at Barossa Park. So, that's the new ground where Suns and North played, as well as Freo and Richmond.
It looked good. Looked like a good ground.
It's definitely better than Norwood.
Yeah.
I think it fits our game style a lot better.
Yeah.
And, it's actually got wings.
I mean, I'd love for us to play at Adelaide Oval, but, if we can't do that, Barossa over Norwood.
That's the interesting part about that report. We actually said, we don't want to play at Adelaide Oval. We want to play at Barossa Park.
Fair enough on our history there.
To be fair, that does eliminate us from playing either Adelaide team in gather round, so I'll take that too.
I will take that.
To be honest, given we love to play in Adelaide, apparently.
Just 3 games so far. And on to question 4 now. So, when can we expect to see Alex Tarverou debut at AFL level? I'll hand this to you, Cooper.
I was saying it before the podcast. I feel like you need him in as soon as you can, because that Sandy Zeb's team's not doing nothing. The midfield's not doing anything, so he's just getting pressured every single time. So I reckon as soon as he can, is he ready? He's straight in, and I think he keeps his spot for us a year.
Yeah, I think this is an absolutely rogue shout, but if Liam O'Connell doesn't come back this week, and I'm assuming he's still healthy after the cork he got at the end of last week's VFL game, there's a 5% chance he comes in this week.
I would love that.
Yeah.
I think we could see it because he is healthy and he's that prototype that we want in the team.
I feel like we'll be seeing it sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you look at Ross Lyon over the past 2 years as well. He loves to play his younger talent. That entire 2023 or 2024 draft class played in 2024, so that was pretty exciting. For me, I'm willing to take a bit of a cautious approach with Tarverou. The stress fractures in his back, I think, were a pretty serious injury. We drafted him knowing that he had those, and I think you just look at Mateus Filippo, for example, just what a little bit of VFL footy can do for you. It is a bit different because Filippo played a full year of AFL before ever suiting up for the Zebras, but just a little bit of development can go so far. And look, I'd love to see Tarverou playing in this team, obviously, but I don't really see it as an option unless we have no key defenders that can run out or whatever happens. But I think...
Yeah. We also saw with Bytel, he had a back injury in his draft year, and we saw that potentially getting him in too early did affect his development a little bit as well. So, yes, take your time with it 100%. Don't rush him back if you don't need to.
Yeah, and I think everyone's excited to see the Viking play, but we're allowed to be cautious with some players. And
always drafting injured blokes, aren't we?
Onto the final, we are, somehow. And onto the last question. I wasn't originally going to include this, but I thought it was something worth touching on. It's pretty similar to a question we had last week, but would you sacrifice the money for the Koning to overpay Naz?
Well, we don't need to. That's the thing.
Exactly.
We have got the war chest where we were both going for LDU, Callaghan, and De Koning all at the same time. So if we needed to go all 3 of those, 2 of those have then not failed, we can then still sign both of them to insanely heavy deals. There's nothing wrong with that. And imagine, De Koning taps the ball down. You got Garcia and McRae, either of them hitting it out to Wintega, gives it out to Naz running off halfback, hands it out to Darcy, laces out King in the forward line. Imagine that.
Mate, Chuck Henry in there as well, bit of steal action.
Maybe not a bit of steal action. No, I'm joking.
But to me, I just don't think people realise how much money we have right now. It's actually not funny, the amount of
it's the most
money.
ever.
Yeah.
It is the most amount of money that a club has ever had to spend. Richmond are up there as well, which...
But they've also got to be careful.
Really doesn't get talked about.
Richmond have got to be careful because they've got so many young players that'll all be on big deals quickly.
Yes.
And so we don't really have that where we've spaced out a little bit.
We've done really well the last couple of years.
So next year, the salary cap's 18.7 million or 18.1 million. Right now, it's a little bit less than that. But this year, we're going to have 1 or 2 players on over $1 million. and I think Steele's on just under $1 million. Wilkie is on just under $1 million.
Hill went from 800 down to like 400 or something
Hill's
like that.
on a much less. I think Naz might just be there. Oh, not
King's
not Naz,
up there.
Sinclair.
King's
But
up there.
and King is making a lot of money this year. I'm hoping that the actual figure will come out eventually, but he is on a lot of money this year on that front-loaded deal.
Yeah.
And that will go down over time. So we can fit a De Koning on a 1.5 and Naz on a 1.5, and this is how scary it is. We can fit those three players in. That's $3 million out of our $18 million gone. We can bring in a Warple or an Ali or a Bergman still.
Yeah.
And potentially multiple. It is actually scary the amount of money we have.
Good. I love that.
I'll call it now. Round 1 next year, Nas will still be playing for us, and the Cody will be in our ruck.
Yep.
I'll
And
love
Ali
that.
will
I'm
be in the back line.
100%
and
confident
Bergman
it will
be in
happen.
the midfield.
It will happen, 100%.
Bergman in midfield.
Well, that's...
He just replaced his
We've gone over
Webster.
it a little bit,
Yeah, we did.
but
We did last week.
we've pitched Bergman as a midfielder to him, and he seemed pretty happy with that.
100%. They're there. The
How-
Cody, 100%.
Yeah. So, how do we feel about next week's game against the Bulldogs? Obviously, the most stereotypical St Kilda thing ever is that Bont is going to return
Of course.
against us. Is Bontempelli, is he the most popular person to ever return on Easter Sunday? I'd
has to
I'd
be,
have to go
surely.
there. I want to say that he is.
I think I'd agree with you, except for the fact that Liam Henry could also return.
True. And a bit of a Jack McRae revenge game potentially
Yes. He's going to get 45 touches.
They would have a tag to go to.
No.
No, they don't really tag the
He'll-
doggies.
He'll go straight to Libba. He'll
Oh,
just
I
go
like
right
that.
to Libba.
This will be a good game to watch.
But I'll
feel like
quickly
we'll win.
pull up the Dogs injury list just so we get a bit of an idea
Yeah, from last week.
who we could be seeing. I think James Harms got the all clear to play this week.
Yeah, I
Okay.
can see that, yes.
Well,
But still a bit of a watch on him.
Yeah.
So Bont's the one.
fitness test.
Yep. So Bont's,
He'll play.
yeah, it's
Taylor Duray, don't think he played on the weekend, but JJ did. He didn't
so
look
JJ
great.
played.
Nick
Vandermeer
Caulfield.
will play.
Caulfield's
Nick
not
Caulfield,
playing.
Fortis.
Yeah.
No, and Trelaw's still out. So
Did Vandermeer play? Laith Vandermeer?
No.
I really like Vandermeer.
He's very
I
good.
hope he doesn't play for our sake.
Yeah. Well, in terms of matchups, obviously the big one's going to be Sam Darcy. Does
Yes.
Wilkie go to him or does Caminiti go to him? That's the big question.
I think we put Caminiti to Norton and put Wilkie to Darcy.
No.
The only thing
Yeah, I
with that is Wilkie's
I'll
like
talk about that.
15 centimetres shorter than him. And so
Yeah.
he's great with being able to stop
There's
players
like
launching.
10-20 centimetre difference. It's
Yeah,
insane.
it is too much of a difference in my opinion. So I think Caminiti does go to him. However, I did say that O'Connell comes in and provides a bit more aerial support. We need that with maybe someone like, I don't know who, but someone to be able to go to Norton so then Wilkie can play on someone else like a Latham Vandermeer
Yeah.
and then come off him and really provide aerial support. I think that's what theoretically could happen, but I don't know if it will happen. I think if we're able to hold Darcy to less than 4 goals, we've got every chance to win it. I don't expect Norton to do anything, but I am concerned about our midfield once again. You know, Marshall should be fit to play against English, and English has been very poor over the last year and a bit. So I think he's got a big advantage there, Marshall. Problem is, Richards has been fantastic this year. Lib has been fantastic this year. Joel Frazier's been in there. Harvey Gallagher's been in there. Sam Davidson's been in there. They've all performed really, really well for a team that doesn't have the talent. And so I think if we're able to stop them there and get first ball use, we saw against Port we can be damaging. Do it again. That's the way we win the game.
Yeah. And just a bit of a quick one. So I think it's pretty obvious we're going to send a tag to someone. So who do we think
Libba.
will tag? You think we tag Libba?
Nah.
Tagging Bonnie's first game actually would be smart though.
Well, what I've seen a few teams do this year is go after Dale. So
Mhm.
I think we could see
So super
Windhager have a bit of a quiet game, not get the touches because we'll be playing half forward. But I think we'll see Windhager go to Dale this week as Dale sets up a lot of their ball movement.
I've just had a vision. Dan Butler comes back and plays on Bailey Dale.
Dan Butler's still a bit away.
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Never mind.
Good vision.
But that would be a good matchup, and I think they don't really have the small, so Riley West bobs up a
He
bit
looked good,
here and
to be
there.
fair.
But apart from that, they don't really have the greatest.
Not without Waitman.
Dolan kicked his goal, but yeah, no
So-
Waitman. They might not have Waitman for the rest of the year,
Yeah,
which is
unfortunate.
shit for him, but we play them twice, so
It's good.
Take that.
it's in our luck there.
Yeah, we play them
And
round 6 and round 14.
Yeah, it's
Weird scheduling,
8 weeks.
AFL.
Right.
Very weird
Under the
scheduling.
dome, both of them. Oh.
Jesus Christ. Don't want to watch either of them, to be honest.
No, we win both.
yeah. I think
do we?
very interesting game. I think it's a very hard game to predict. The
Yes.
Bulldogs have, they smashed us last year. We
Mhm.
beat them the year before that. But apart from that, we don't really match up that great against them. And I think that has a lot to do with how superstar heavy their midfield has been over
Mhm.
the past few years. But you look at who goes in there nowadays. Obviously, Richards, Libba, all good players. Bont's going to come back. But it's
Assuming, yes.
there's no Treloar there last year, who was an All-Australian player
he
last year.
always calls us Treloar,
Yeah,
so I'm very
Treloar,
glad he's not playing. But, how do we see this game going? We can always talk about the talent. We can always talk about who's playing, who's not. But how do we actually see the game going?
I think defensively they're not a great team, and especially in their
Yeah.
midfield. And I think we're just going to take advantage of that. They don't want a two-way run, from what I've heard, so we'll just take advantage of that. Hopefully a lot of scores off turnover.
Yep.
Which is what I'll probably predict. A lot of scores off turnover from, we'll see Naz get higher up the ground this game, get Sinclair higher up the ground. As they continue to get shots on goal, they've been getting a few shots on goal each over the past few
Mhm.
weeks. I think we'll continue to see that. I think we'll see a McRae revenge game, and forward line's a bit of an issue with, they've got Jones, who I don't know if Jones played on the
He
weekend.
did. He did.
He did.
They got Jones and Lobb as
They
their
got
two
Lobb,
mains.
yeah. And
Lobb.
apart from that, Karmas is an all right player. Bramble, I don't entirely
not-
love, and
not a lot.
O'Donnell is another one who's there. But apart from that, pretty tall forward line, which I don't think will match up well against our little mosquito fleet.
Yep. Collard.
Yep.
And the rest.
Collard will play this game. What do you think, Ben?
I want to hear your actual predictions.
Oh, my actual predictions.
Your actual predictions.
Ooh,
We want to hear the actual predictions.
gone off on a tangent for nothing about what I think will happen. My actual prediction, all right. Saints podcast, got to go Saints to win by 19. And my stat will be that Hugo Garcia will get 10 plus touches. Not touches, tackles.
10
tackles.
plus touches.
Yes.
I hope so.
10 plus tackles, I would hope so. We'll get tackles.
Yeah, I like that. I think, Richards, Libba, they like a contested game. Hugo should thrive on that.
Yep.
So, good
Great.
prediction. Cooper.
I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'll paint the picture for you.
Okay, let's hear it.
Caminiti's on Sam Darcy.
Yeah.
Sam Darcy's he's due for a bad one, isn't he?
Yeah.
Caminiti
Looked
locks
a
him down.
Bit proppy at
Okay.
the end of last
Okay.
game. Bit of a
Darcy kicks
hamstring.
maybe he's won off a bullshit free kick. That's
Yeah,
fine.
Okay.
Caminiti has 20 plus touches
Ooh.
this week.
Yeah. How many marks?
What's his career high in a game?
I don't even want to know, to be honest.
He'll
I reckon it
have,
was 18 earlier in the year.
he'll have 13 marks.
Okay.
Saints get this done by 5 goals.
Wow. It's a big prediction.
28 to be exact, but yes.
That's 4
5
goals in a bit.
Yeah, close enough.
It's a very big prediction.
It's happening. Watch it.
What about you,
Play this
Ben?
back next week.
Okay.
We don't know your predictions yet. It's not in
No.
the Google Doc.
I don't
so-
want to. I don't want to ever put mine in the Google Doc. I want to do it,
It's a
and you
surprise.
guys do a live reaction.
Okay.
So we'll be like,
Okay. I do have us winning this week,
Wow. By how
I
many
do.
points?
only by 13.
oh.
Only by 13. But a win's a win. You're typing it as we speak.
All I need to know. I need to
Alive.
keep track of them.
Okay.
A live Google Doc up.
And then the one stat that I have, I think that I'm not going to go goals this week. I did that in the last few weeks. Sharman almost had the 5, but he got the 3 only. I'm going to go with we have over 60 inside 50s again this week.
Wow. So Marvel. It's still a short ground, but it's not as short as
Not as short. Yeah.
Norwood was. So that's a pretty interesting one from you.
That or Marshall is 25 touches.
Marshall,
With Boyd and
25.
Keeler playing.
That is not happening.
Okay.
But yeah, pretty.
McRae gets a goal too.
Oh yeah,
Last 3 weeks. He'll get
McRae
one.
finally kicks his goal.
The 1 week you don't say it will be the week he kicks it.
Nah, he'll kick against his former team.
Bit
He'll
like
go
Paddy
straight liver.
Dow.
He'll be happy.
A bit like Paddy Dow last year.
Oh, that was great. Yeah.
But yeah, pretty good podcast today, boys. I think
Loved
we've
it.
just hit around that 40-50 minute mark. I'm not
I think
too
a
sure.
bit over, but who's complaining? More Saints content.
Exactly.
That's all it is.
Not the viewers.
And while St Kilda might not be killing it on the field, exactly, we're definitely killing it off the field with this brand new jacket.
merch.
No one
That's
else, no one else has worn their St Kilda merch today, but I had to
I'm
show
also-
off.
I'm
No.
a Suns fan.
Had to show off the new jacket. Pretty excited about it, but yeah,
That's
I think
great.
that's pretty much it. Did you guys want to add anything else?
Nah.
No.
Wrap it up.
Oh, Collard kicks 4.
Collard
yeah.
kicks 4.
That's not a stat.
He's going to get dropped this week.
So I've got Caminiti 20 plus.
Collard
Collard
kicks
kicks 4.
4,
McRae
McRae kicks
goal.
his first.
Collard plays over.
We win by 5 goals.
Harry Boyd has 15 touches.
Harry Boyd, Isaac Giller, Ron Marshall all play.
Zach Jones gets dropped. Yeah.
What isn't going to happen with Cooper's predictions this week? What
Eric-
isn't going to happen?
I'm very
Who knows?
biased.
But yeah,
Sinclair has 40.
that's not out of the realm of
Sinclair
possibility.
and Jack McRae has 50 touches. That's my prediction.
No.
Opposition stat. Hopefully Bailey Dale
Right.
doesn't get tagged because I'm my super coach.
I thought I had found the perfect bet. I put $5 on Jack McRae to get 35 touches. It was paying like $5, and then I put $5 on him to get 40. It was paying like a 170. Had 15.
Do it this week.
Yeah, do it this week.
Might have to, but it's not a betting podcast. It's a Saints podcast, of course. And thank you guys for tuning in this week. Make sure to give us 5 stars on Spotify, or if you are listening to us on YouTube, comment what you thought of the podcast this week. Will the Saints win against the Bulldogs in round 6 on Easter Sunday? And make sure to subscribe to the channel as well. And we will see you in next week's pod. And hopefully it's after a great Saints win.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
See you, Sainers.
See ya.